This is the Cricut Doctor.
Bandwidth for the Cricut Doctor is provided by Cricut.
Hi, this is Andy with the Cricut Doctor. Welcome to our new series of videos on sublimating with the Cricut Doctor Sublimation Printer. In this series of videos, we're going to show you how to sublimate on t-shirts, mugs, Dollar Tree cups, and much, much more. Let's go over to the computer.
Hi everybody, we're over at the computer now. I want to start by defining what sublimation printing is for those of you that may not be familiar with it. Sublimation printing is simply a process of applying special inks onto special papers so that they can be transferred using heat and pressure onto a garment or some other object. There are a couple things about this that you should know. First of all, the heat required for sublimation is roughly about 400 degrees. So it's not usually something you can accomplish with a home iron. Also requires that the surface that you're applying have a large amount of polyester. So basically, sublimation inks bond to polyester. No polyester, no bond. The other thing is you can't print white. That's important too, because printers don't print white. They rely on the background of the paper for that. So one of the myths that you'll run into is that you can't sublimate on anything but white polyester t-shirts, and nothing could be further from the truth. There's many, many ways to accomplish this, and we're going to look at all those in this series. The first thing we're going to conquer, though, is just a simple t-shirt, because it really is the easiest way to see how to do things. We're going to use a white polyester t-shirt and a straightforward sublimation. We're going to show you how to get the picture created, how to get it onto the t-shirt, how to get it pressed, and then in further episodes we'll cover things like sublimating onto dark materials or non-polyester, 100% cotton shirts. Even plastic, believe it or not. You would think 400 degrees. Well, you certainly can't put that on plastic, but indeed you can. There are tricks to everything. We're going to cover all those in upcoming series, but in this particular video we're going to cover a straightforward sublimation of a picture onto a t-shirt. So the first thing you want to do is go to the internet and just find a picture that you like. I found one, and I'm in Cricut Design Space right now. We're going to use Cricut because it's fairly easy for this. It has some limitations. Quite honestly, I usually use Silhouette Studios for my sublimation work, simply because Silhouette's got some cool features that aren't available in Cricut Design Space. But for simplicity, we're going to start here because this is just drop dead easy to do. So first thing I want to do is upload my image. I'm going to click image here. I'm going to go open image. I'm going to browse, and I've saved my image down here. This is the out of time Back to the Future JPEG. We're going to open that. You'll notice on this picture that there's a bunch of squares off to the side. Those squares are where the picture is clear. We'd like all of the white to be clear or invisible. We just want the colors to show up, not the white, because there's no need to print. It's not going to print anyway, but there's no reason to have that in there. This is a fairly complex picture, so we're going to pick complex. If it were a simple logo, we would pick simple. It was kind of in between the two. We'd do moderate. This just helps the software just to figure out how aggressive it has to be in the processing. This is complex, so we're going to hit complex. We'll click continue. If you look over to the side here, it shows you, gives you a little information about preparing this as far as removing the background. This little square or crosshairs that you see right here, when we put that over an area and click it, it deletes all that background color. Now you'll notice there's a couple other places in here where it didn't delete. We want to take that out. The easiest way to do this is come down here and make the picture bigger so we can see it better, And then we'll just take our crosshairs everywhere we see white, and we'll just click it and clean that right out of there. And fortunately, this one doesn't have a lot. Some images will take a long time to clean up. That's just part of the fun. You'll notice on this side, these stripes are clean. This side is not. And I think at that point, we're looking pretty good. This is a pretty good clean image. So once we have that the way we want it, we'll hit apply and continue. Now we have two choices here. One is to cut an outline of the image. The other is what's called print and cut. We're going to use print and cut because we want to actually print the picture. So we hit print and cut, hit upload. And a short time later, there we go. Okay, so now our image is uploaded here. I have two because I already uploaded this image just to make sure it worked. Once it's there, we're going to click it on, hit add to canvas. And now our image is on the canvas. Right now you'll see that the image is, if we put it up in the corner, it's 2.5 inches by a little over 3. We want it way bigger than that for the t-shirt. You're printing this on a printer, so your first thought is, well, I can print 8.5 by 11. And that would be correct if we were using Silhouette, but we're not. We're using Cricut, and Cricut prints registration marks around here, which take up room. So the largest that we can go on a print and cut is about 6 1/4 or 6 3/4. So we're gonna slide this down to 6 3/4. Actually, I'll show you what happens. If we leave it at 8, let's do it that way so you see why we're not doing this. If I click make it, it's gonna say no can do. Project's not supported. It's not supported by any Cricut, by the way. It'll say your machine. It's not supported by any Cricut. They're all 6 3/4 by about 9 3/4, I think. So we're going to take and grab our handle here. We're going to size this down to about 6 3/4. Don't have to be exact. And now if we click make it, we'll see that the squirrels are running in the background. And there it is. And now you'll see this black bar that's all the way around here, this black box. That will print. That is the registration mark. We don't need that. We're not going to actually cut this on a Cricut. We're just using the Cricut software to get the image sized the way that we want it. It's a little hard to do if you just try to print the image. There are other softwares. I mean, you could use Adobe. I've even been told there's certain built-in Microsoft programs that will let you size the image exactly for printing. Obviously, I have a Cricut, so I'm using their software. Again, we'll cover in one of the future videos, we'll cover using the Silhouette Studio because it really is a great advantage when it comes to doing sublimation. There are some neat tricks you can do with their software that just aren't available in Cricut. The difference between the two, if you're wondering, Cricut, once again, is just very easy, intuitive, clean software to use. Great for beginners. It's my software of choice for a lot of things because it is just that simple. Silhouette, on the other hand, is not. It's not that it's difficult. It's just not intuitive. So you have to practice. You have to learn. You're probably going to have to Google a lot of things. With Cricut Design Space, when I first got mine, I just jumped in and started doing it, and I learned things as I went along. When I got my Cameo, I had to spend a little time on the internet because it wasn't quite as apparent to me how to do things. So I'm not going to gab at you anymore. Let's go ahead and print this out. So we're going to go ahead and hit continue. We're going to send this to the printer. There's a couple things important on this page here. First of all, I want to select my sublimation printer, which is the Epson WF2850. Next thing, we want to turn off this add bleed. We don't need that. That would make the colors on the edge kind of bleed out a little bit. It's in case you're wrapping a coaster or something like that and you want the colors to overlap. We don't want that. The real important one here is the Use System dialog. You want to click that on because we need to make some settings on our print quality in order for it to work right. So we're going to hit print. This has printing on it, by the way, so to apply this has to be mirrored. You can do that in the Cricut software, but we're going to actually do it in the printer software. So we're going to come over here, select the Epson 2850, and I'm going to click Preferences. And then down here you'll see that Sublimation Mirrored is selected. That's a preset that I've created. The way you do that is you click up here, Add or Remove Presets, and you want to make sure that you have portrait, color, high quality set, and that's really all you need on this page. On the more options, you want to make sure that you set letter size, output paper same as document size, and this is where the real magic happens here. You want to hit Custom, Advanced, and you want to make sure that this Adobe RGB is selected. That's going to give you the absolute best. Just copy these settings exactly as you see them here. That's going to give you a really good color output. Maintenance you won't need. And I also, on this, again, pay attention to all these settings. You want to hit the Premium Presentation Paper Matte. That is the best paper to use for this. And this, of course, is printing out on our Sublimation printer on Sublimation paper, and it doesn't matter really what brand you get, but you have to use Sublimation printer paper. Do not use just regular paper. You won't be happy with the results. So we're going to click OK here, and then we can click Print. And in just a few minutes, this will pop out of the printer and we'll take it from there. I'll meet you over at the printer in just a second. Okay, we're ready to put our image onto our t-shirt now. I'm going to move the camera in so you can see exactly what's going on. But first, let's take a quick look at what we printed. This is what's going to go on our t-shirt. If you look closely here, the colors will look muted. As the heat transfers that, these colors will really pop out. First thing we want to do is trim off this black edge. We don't want that printed. You'll see that there's a yellow side of the paper. Print's going to go down, everything's reversed, and we'll move the camera in and you can see the whole process. Okay, as I said, the first thing we want to do is remove this black border. I'm just going to roughly cut this. Be careful not to smudge the actual printing, and I always recommend that you let this print sit for probably a couple of hours before you try to apply it. The other trick is to set the heat press just over the top of it, not touching, for a little 20 seconds or so, and that'll help dry it up real quick. I'm impatient, so I usually dry it that way. So once we get this, now on this bottom edge here, I'm going to try to cut this pretty straight with this line because I'm going to use this as my alignment. Onto my shirt. Now, grab a rubber mat. This protects our surface and also gives a little backing for the t-shirt. Before we do anything here, we're going to center this up and find out exactly where we want this image, so we don't have a lot of surprises later on. There's a couple things to look for. The bottom here and the neckline here, usually about 4 fingers, 3-4 fingers from there. If you use a guide, this one might be a little big, but we use it anyway. There we go. So this tells us that we want to be, the other thing I do is take your image and give it a little crimp at the top and the bottom so that you know for sure where that center line is. In this case, it's right like that. If we take this off, I'll probably take it up a little higher. Like so. There we go. So we want to be right about there. Step back, give it a look. That seems pretty good. Now, before we do anything, I'm going to give the whole front of this t-shirt a quick press with the iron, probably about 20 seconds. So we're going to go. This timer is set for 60 seconds. That's what we'll want for sublimation. We'll just take it off at 40. The reason we do that is to release any moisture from that area. Also, if you want to go back and just off to the side, get some of the wrinkles out. Not a bad idea. You don't have to get overly critical with it. The other suggestion is to take use a lint roller. I can't seem to find mine, so what I'm going to do is just take a piece of transfer paper. Any type of tape will work. Just like that. Push it back. Separate these two. This is always the hard part, is separating transfer tape. You can use any type of tape for this, it really doesn't matter. We just want to make sure that we don't leave any unwanted lint on there. After I do the first press to get the moisture out of the shirt, I let it rest for a little bit. I don't want it to be too hot when I put my image on it, because I might have to reposition a little bit. Go back to our guide. Put that on again. Okay. Some people will fold the shirt in half and use that as their center line. I wouldn't go by this tag because it rarely is in the right position. So now we're going to place our item, watch where our little center line is. And I do one more check. Just quickly, looks like we got almost 5 inches. That looks good. I'll come to these outside seams. That looks good. So pretty happy with the placement of that. Step back, look at it. Make sure it looks right to you. It does look pretty right. Here. See right here, usually 2 to 3 inches from the neckline is usually about right. Once we have it where we want it, now we're going to grab that too. Once we have that centered up where we want it, we're going to use some Kapton tape. This is high temperature tape. It won't melt when we press it. So it's safe to use. Doesn't leave any residue or anything on the garment. But it will keep, really hard to start. It will keep the image from shifting as we do this. I usually cut a couple pieces and just stick them on anything where I can grab them. And one more piece, usually 4 pieces, 1 in each corner is sufficient. Alrighty. So we're going to line that up, make sure everything still looks good. Stick there. Stick there. Stick there. And piece stick there. Now, once you have this done, I'm going to insert a pad inside the shirt. We want to get this all locked down first, because once you get the pad in here, it becomes a little hard to see what you're doing. And I find that's where I make most of my mistakes in the beginning. We try to put the pad in first, and then all of a sudden things didn't come out right. And it was because once you get to this point, it's kind of hard to tell what's lined up and what ain't. Okay, so we have that lined up. Everything's out of the way. Now we're ready to press. We don't want to press directly on the paper. We want to leave, I usually put a piece of parchment paper over whatever I'm pressing, and then I put a piece of Teflon sheet over that. Just because we don't want to get too much direct contact with the iron. This thing is hot. We're at 400 degrees. We're going to press it for 60 seconds. We want to see and make sure that I get my press directly over everything. So we're going to line that up, and when we're ready, we're going to go press, hit the start button, and we'll count down.
A few moments later.
Okay, now we're going to lift this. Well, it's still relatively hot. This is basically a warm peel. And there we go, and you can see how much more vivid these colors are than they were on the direct unit. There it is. When you wash these, you want to usually turn them inside out. It's easier on the inks in the washing and spin cycle, but they are completely safe for your washer. Obviously, don't use bleach, and just follow the normal washing instructions on it. This fabric, now the thing about sublimation is that picture is part of the fabric. It's not coming off for love nor money. And that's it. It's just that easy. You can get started with sublimation using the Cricut Doctor Sublimation printer. It's $200 and includes all the inks, everything you need. Even comes with some paper and spare ink. You can print right out of the box.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Cricut Doctor. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like on Facebook and YouTube. And be sure to check with CricutDoctor.com for our continuing series of sublimation and other how-to videos.